o'clock, everybody, so the meeting can come to order. And we have lots of new members, so we should probably do introductions. And why don't we start at the top? We'll just go with the order folks are on the agenda. So if Fish, you want to start out?
Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. Yeah, I get confused. All right. So, okay, hopefully you guys can hear me now.
Yeah.
So, my name is Vishwas Sethi. I go by Vish, just so it's easier for people to pronounce and make it easier. And I'm a local Sherwood living person, and we moved here a few years ago, probably close to 3 years now. And I work for Lam Research. And yeah, I'm not sure. Is there any particular information that you want me to share, or just?
Thank you. At this point, since we did a longer introduction, sorry, I'm just chiming right in, Randy. But
Sure.
Normally, just for anybody who's watching on YouTube, hello, audience members, and to say our name and whether you're a member or not, and keep it short and sweet for this time. But thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks, Fish. And I'm Randy Mifflin, and I am the current chair.
And I'm Melanie Dobson, and I've been a board member for about a year.
Okay,
And Fritz, I think you're up next.
Okay. Hi, this is Fritz Kalashewski. I'm the new rural representative on the board. I live out about 4 miles west of Sherwood, out on a tree farm.
Nice.
Stephen's just joined.
Okay. Jane, you're up next.
Hi, my name's Jane Van Kuren. I've lived in Sherwood for 7 years, and I am position 5, and I'm the vice chair.
Fantastic. Thanks, Jane. And Stephen, we're doing introductions, and you're up next.
Okay, hi, I'm Steve Remsen. I think I've been on the board for maybe close to a year now. And I work at Intel Corporation, and I have 2 young kids who I lost my sitter for today, so I might be on and off a little bit here. But
Thanks, Stephen.
Yep.
And Danny, you're next.
Hi, I'm Danny Sticka, and I'm a new member of the board.
Hi, Danny. And Lily.
Hi, I'm Lily Fairman. I'm the high school representative. I'm a student at Sherwood High School right now.
Fantastic. Thanks, Lily. And do we have any changes to the agenda, Adrian?
No, but do you want staff to introduce ourselves?
Yes, please. Sorry.
Yeah, okay.
If you have to, Renee, I guess.
Let's see. Well, so I don't think Renee hasn't gotten here yet. I'm Adrian Doman-Calkins, Library Manager for Sherwood Public Library, and Crystal is here as well.
Hi there, I'm Krista Garcia, Adult Services Librarian, and I've worked with the city for 13 years, so.
Great. Thanks, Adrian and Crystal. Sorry for forgetting about you guys. And still no Renee, right?
No, I don't see her. No.
Okay.
I'll check. I'll just keep email here too to make sure she hasn't said anything else. She just said a few, so a few minutes late. Okay, carry on.
All right. So no changes then?
None from me.
Fantastic. And any changes requested from any other members of the board? Okay, then has everybody had a chance to look at last month's minutes?
Here comes Renee.
Yes.
I didn't go try and find it on the YouTube. I didn't, to see what it looks like, because you record it. Yeah. I didn't. One of these times I'll go find it.
I put the link in the minutes this time. So if you want to, you can find it that way as well.
Thank you.
Some people did. We have some people besides just ourselves that looked at it. It's certainly optional. I think it's sort of a weird experience to watch oneself on YouTube in a board meeting. I don't know. I just find that kind of different. Yeah.
It's disconcerting. Okay, then, if there are no changes, and can I get a motion to approve last month's minutes?
Motion to approve it.
And can I get a second?
I second.
I'll second it. This is Fritz.
Great, thank you, Fritz. And all in favor, please say aye.
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 Great, thank you. All those opposed, please say no. It looks like they passed. Thank you. And Renee, are you with us now?
Maybe. Yeah,
Maybe.
I'm here.
Good. You want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Renee Brous. I am the council liaison to the Library Advisory Committee.
Fantastic. Thanks, Renee.
Yep.
And with that, we will hand it over to Adrian for library updates.
Thank you. All right, so I wanted to talk a little bit about our current services. It feels like so much has happened since our last meeting just a month ago. I'm sure remember that we were just going into a freeze and we had actually closed our curbside services temporarily. We didn't know for how long that was going to be or how we would get materials into people's hands, but we were just starting to do the work of contacting the nearly 500 patrons who had current holds in the building and figuring out a way for them to get all their holds. So that did happen. And then we figured out a way to do curbside with fewer staff on site, and we just kept it going basically. And so now we didn't have any gap where there were no curbside services. So there was a brief period for better part of a week where it was only those people who had current services, or excuse me, current holds. But now you can go to the catalog just like before, wccls.org, place holds, get the notice, and then just come on down to the library. So don't have to make an appointment anymore. I'll show you the information about that on the screen. So at sherwoodoregon.gov/library, there's curbside services. And so now we have Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. services. If possible, people could call ahead and tell us that they're on their way, and then staff behind the scenes can check out those materials, and it just goes a little faster. The phone's actually ringing off the hook so much that sometimes you can't get through and just show up anyway, of course, and come pick up. And if you come to the Pine Street entrance, there's actually a table there, but we're not staffing the table like we did before. And so instead there's a doorbell, there's some signage about social distancing. We require masks just like before, but ring the doorbell or call if you have a cell phone with you, and let staff know you're there, have a library card, people bring it out. And then the book bundles, which you heard me talk about last time, were just starting to gain in popularity. We did pause those temporarily during that period when we were just focusing on getting holds to the current people during the freeze. But then we started them back up again pretty soon afterwards and have added to them, and those are going really strong. And so I think we have 2 racks of bundled items, and they're very popular. So those you don't have to have a hold to get. You can just come up with no hold and say, I'd like that one, please. And right now we have all the holiday bundles out as well. So it's books, but it's also movies and some magazines and so on. So that's all on here. We're still asking for library card, all of that. It's basically like what we were doing before the freeze, but it looks different. No appointments. It's simpler. You don't have to go onto wccls.org and make the online appointment. Much easier for staff, more efficient, for fewer people to be involved, and inside the building, the big thing, the whole reason why we did this was to make it safer for staff. It was always safe for patrons, but for now, for staff, we can stay farther apart. We can have fewer people in the space and have people spread out more who aren't working on curbside as well. That's been a big focus right now on staffing, is the space in there. The rules keep changing, and so OSHA put out new rules I think we had the draft rules at our last meeting, but those have gone into effect, and we have to have more space, masks on all the time, of course, which we were already doing quite a bit more than the requirements anyway. So it didn't change that much except for having even more space. But what the good thing about that is what happens is if we were to have the unfortunate situation of having a staff person have COVID, and I see Vishwas, I'll get to you in just a second. I see your hand there. It means nobody's within 6 feet of each other for more than 15 minutes within a 24-hour period, which is determined by OSHA to be the risk, if someone was exposed. So we're avoiding that even if we have the unfortunate situation come up. Vishwas, did you want to ask something or say something?
Yeah, just a quick comment. You mentioned about the curbside from Monday to Friday, but the website says Monday to Saturday. Is it Monday to Saturday?
It's, pardon me, I thought I said Monday through Saturday. It's Monday through Saturday. The website's correct. It's good to correct me. Thank you. Yeah, Monday through Saturday, 10 to 5. And actually, I'm glad you brought that up because we do recognize that it's nice to have evening hours. We haven't been able to figure that out yet, but that's a goal. So we hope to expand one or more of the days. Before, with the old curbside model, we had one evening where we had curbside open until 7. And that's nice for people that are not off work until 5 or later. Thank you for asking that. Just looking to see. I think everything else is basically the same for current services. So we're still doing all of our Zoom programs and all of that and so on. I want to pop back over to the agenda. Any questions about current services before I move on to fines and fees?
It's not a question, Adrienne, but I've used that quite a bit now, the curbside pickup, and it's just running so well, so smooth. I just call ahead. They have it waiting for me. It's like 2 minutes in and out. So really safe and well done. So your staff is doing a great job.
Oh,
excellent.
Thank you, Melanie. That's great. I'm glad to hear it. Okay. No, that's great. Lots of gratitude coming from the community. It feels really good. And we're checking out still about half of what we did before, and our ebooks are still going up. So collectively it ends up being about 2/3, I think, of our total normal checkout for this time of year. So it's not everybody, but it does feel good that we're able to do so much. Okay, so I'll move on to fines and fees then. No? Okay. So the good news is today, the County Board of Commissioners for Washington County had their meeting. On the consent agenda for their meeting, they had a few things for the library to vote upon. And the big thing was to stop charging overdue fines for library materials. And we've talked about this a number of times. So that was approved by our Board of Commissioners. That means that we can move forward. The target date is January 26th. And we won't be charging overdue fees up until then. We haven't this whole time. And there'll be some messaging coming out from WCCLS probably on that date to the public. And then we'll be sharing more of that with Sherwood patrons as well. So right now it's technically public knowledge that if anybody's reading the public record, it's there, but we're not marketing it in a big way until we get our procedures and our policies all the way done. Things are moving through the pipeline. The policy was just approved on Monday that goes with it, and the procedures are coming to staff soon. So everybody's really excited. It means that more people will feel like they can use the library again, that maybe felt like they had financial obstacles. Maybe they had lost books that they had found but didn't want to return them because they were thinking, oh, these overdue fees are going to be too big, and they just stopped using the library. So you'll be hearing more messages in about a little more than a month, probably from everything you get from WCCLS as a patron. At our next meeting, I'll have more updates for you as well. So that's huge. And I don't know, I feel like pause, because it's something that's been discussed for decades probably. But really the last couple of years has been discussed, like, should we do this? Multnomah County Library had done it a while back, a number of different libraries in the state of Washington and all across the country. So it's a really big moment for Washington County, and it's seen professionally in the, as being very progressive and for equity and everything. So thank you for all of your support for this as well. Any questions about fines and fees, overdue fees? Okay. A couple of these things, the library operations plans and reopening plans, I just have on every agenda. So I feel like I mostly have talked through those, but just know that we have a holding pattern right now, of course, that we're not making plans to do the computer appointments that we were talking about a few months ago with the freeze and then the extreme risk for the county. We want to be ready to go with that. I'll talk some about this with strategic focusing as well, but the Chromebooks we've ordered, the Hotspots we've ordered. It takes a while to get those all set up and things. The Chromebooks will be as part of Library of Things. And Library of Things is going to be turned on later this week, actually. So the existing ones, not the Chromebooks yet, those will take longer. But if somebody needs a microscope during the pandemic or a sewing machine or, all the various technology things, and there's some that are more fun, and there's new board games, those will all be available for checkout again. Let's see. This is a department of the city has a safety committee, and we have a rep on the library staff who's a member of the safety committee, and they're the group that will be going through and making sure all the new OSHA rules are in compliance. There's a lot of documentation and so on that they have to do as well. In terms of reopening, there's nothing, there's no magic date that I know that you don't know. We're all just waiting. We still expect that when we are able to open the doors to the public again, it's probably going to be at first just by appointment for some computer use appointments, and then slowly metered traffic of people coming in just to kind of the first area of the library, picking up holds, using self-checkout, browsing some displays, but not going out into the bigger library. So that's still the same. I feel like that went by really quickly. Did I miss anything you were hoping to hear about, or any other questions? No updates is quicker than lots of updates. Yeah.
If there aren't any further questions on library updates, we'll continue with Adrian covering strategic focusing.
Okay, thank you. So at our last meeting, we talked through the staff feedback, and you each ranked your top 3 items from what the priorities should be. And I'm going to stop sharing what I'm sharing right now, actually, and share something different. So, moment. Better. Since I started with an Excel spreadsheet, I just stayed in Excel. It was faster, but this should show in just a little bit. Do you see kind of a cascading chart? Yes, okay. So at the last meeting, we had a really great discussion. I feel like it was very useful. And it was at a time when we were closed for curbside. So the top focus was on distribution of physical materials. Should I make this bigger? Is that too small? Or is it yes for make it bigger?
Bigger would be better.
How about if I go like that and I'll just pan over? Okay. Whoops, sorry. Do you see the full distribution of physical materials? Okay. I notice when I've looked back at some of the YouTube that when I share my screen, it gets chopped off on the left and right sometimes, or top and bottom, and I don't necessarily know what you're going to see. Okay, so since we've been able to reinstitute curbside, I made this wording to say top priority to maintain curbside access during extreme risk and other phases of the closure. So if we ever get to a point where things are, something different and we're wondering, what are our priorities? We always know this is the top priority. I added consider additional distribution methods. Maybe we'd have the capacity to do some of that now during curbside, but certainly if we get to a point where it's not even safe to do the curbside that we are doing, we know that, okay, our next priority therefore is consider additional distribution methods, and what might that look like? Some of those things we talked about last time, but we haven't, as staff, we have not come up with those ideas, thinking like we want to focus on current curbside, everything we're doing there, and some of these other pieces. And I didn't rank these or number them. I just thinking for the purposes of it being kind of a simple living document, having these right up at the top could work. So the next one, Wi-Fi access, I broke this up into 4. So we talked about rural community members struggling to have high-speed internet, impacting distance learning and work from home. I don't necessarily have tasks related to that yet for staff to work on. We've talked about it a lot. What we've mostly focused on are these next 2 items. So we know that Sherwood broadband Wi-Fi in the building and right outside the building is not a strong signal at the library. It's actually a strong signal in the Art Center parking lot. If anybody who maybe has no internet access and is at home and trying to do distance learning and work from home, and they're down to the last options, they could park in the Art Center parking lot with their laptop or devices and work. But we know that's not ideal, and in my opinion, not where people would think to go if they're new to a community. They're more likely to think that a library might have a Wi-Fi signal in the parking lot. Those conversations are happening at the city level. My supervisor, Kristen Schweitzer, is the director of community services, and she's on senior leadership for the city of Sherwood. And she's been having conversations on our behalf with the other departments of the city and the IT department, Brad Crawford, the IT director. And Brad's saying he can look and see, is there something you can do in the parking lot to boost the signal, add equipment? What would it cost? What would that look like? So it's started. And then separate from our issue, the city, all the other member libraries in the cooperative are having similar conversations at their locations. In the meeting that I go to, the policy group for WCSLS, that meeting, it was actually on our agenda on Monday. All the other member libraries use their Wi-Fi provided by WCCLS, and we already had Wi-Fi through Sherwood Broadband back in the day when that was instituted. So, we're kind of an outlier there, but the same conversations are happening. Everybody all across the county has these same needs. What can we do? There are conversations started about short-term versus long-term. Long-term, like 3 to 5 years, is there going to be traction? It would take intergovernmental agreements with 9 cities and 3 nonprofits to agree to help prioritize, say, trenching and cement and adding all the hardware for weatherproof stuff. Stuff. You know what I mean? Receivers, is that the right word? Anyway, to have all of that outside as well as inside, provided by the county, and of course that would be expensive. And if the county were to do that, it could take away funding from other library services. And is that really what people want and need the library to provide or not? So those all just in the discussion stage right now, and a little bit of like, what if we were to do that, and what might a timeline be, and how much might it cost? So that's like the 3 to 5 year type of project. And then because it would be RFPs and requests for proposal, it's just huge. I don't know if it will happen. I don't know if it did happen, if it would affect Sherwood at all. And then another thing that came up in that conversation was about how places like Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue, TVFNR, how they handle their data needs when they're on location. I guess they have, and I think maybe police departments too, have some kind of really powerful hotspot that they can bring with them that works during the situation, and then they can take that with them when they go. And so WCSLS is going to research, does that make sense for WCSLS to buy some of those and make them available to member libraries? Again, this is all just in brainstorming. We don't know costs yet or anything, or what it would take. Can we even get those timeline budget? But just know that there's a lot behind the scenes that's happening to bring these conversations forward. It's going to take a while to solve these problems, though. Hopefully in the shorter term, we can at least boost the signal in the parking lot. That's my hope for our parking lot. And then for mobile hotspots and Chromebooks, I mentioned we have those on order. The Chromebooks should be available hopefully in February for checkout. The hotspots, hopefully end of February and March. We'll circulate those through Library of Things, and some of them will be bundled together. So if someone doesn't have internet, they need both the Chromebook and the hotspot, or if they just need one or the other. So there would be, no cost for checking those out. I think I'm not positive about this. If we're going to do 7-day checkout or 21-day checkout, I think it might be 7-day checkout for those, but renewable a certain number of times as long as there are no other people waiting for them. So that's just 10. But our plan is to add to that collection every year. I'm not sure what demand will be for the Chromebooks, but we expect demand for the hotspots to be really great, far greater than just 10 hotspots. The program that we use specializes in working with libraries, and they limit us. They gave us a really good deal. We don't have to pay a monthly service. They make it much easier, I should say, for a flat fee to get the 10 hotspots. But then we're limited to buy 10 each year. Actually, I think it might be 11. It's 10 Chromebooks and 11 hotspots. So every year we could add 11 to our collection. And that new year would start in July for us. And then I mentioned computer appointments. We hope to do those as a first priority when it's safe to do so, but I don't see that happening anytime right away. All the member libraries that had computer appointments have discontinued that during the freeze and this new extreme risk category. Any questions about the technology piece here? Wi-Fi? Yeah,
I just had a question. Yeah, I was just curious, and you kind of alluded to this, but who do you foresee using the Chromebooks, since the students, pretty much all the students in the Sherwood system already have their own computers? I was just curious who you thought might be using those.
I think that we'll see a mix of ages. I think we have a lot of homeschoolers in Sherwood. There might be some youth, but who are not part of the school district, and they're grown-ups, of course, and then a lot of seniors. I'm not sure about, some seniors are like, no, I don't want that much technology. They want something simpler, but not all. So I'm not sure. I know that the other libraries that have Chromebooks circulate them a lot. They're very useful. And even, let's say a family has 2 kids and the kids have their technology provided by the school, but maybe the adult or adults don't have the technology they need to do everything that they can. And, they can't always borrow their kids' technology from the school and do what they need to do. So there's still a need out there, depending. So it'll be interesting. I think we haven't really talked about this yet, but we could do some kind of assessment to maybe, asking for like a comment card kind of thing every time it goes out, to help us understand what the need is, and was it just a drop in the bucket for someone to have something for a week or 3 weeks when they really need to just own a device? It might not solve as many problems as we hope. Same thing with the hotspots. Yeah, good question though.
Well, it'll sure be nice if your computer goes, if you have to send your computer in for a week or 2, you could borrow one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. A lot of people use our printing services temporarily for similar reasons, that they had a printer, it's broken, they're waiting for a part, or they're ordering a new one and they need to print. Our printing, we're still doing printing. We pick it up at Curbside, and that's very popular. It's a small but mighty group of people who are working from home or doing advanced degrees from home and things like that, need printing. Should I move on? Any other questions about technology? Okay.
From my point of view, when you were bringing these ideas forward from the staff, I was very impressed. I felt like you and the staff had your finger on the situation, and these ideas were popping up, and then you shared them with us. I really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Jane. That was good. That's good. It's harder to know our community needs when we're not seeing as many of our people,
Yeah.
So then, And I have two more categories. You want me to keep going?
Yeah, absolutely. You
Yeah,
can roll
okay.
into the SWAT discussion.
Well, I mean, the services for seniors and marketing over here.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, please.
Yeah. All right. So the services for seniors, we haven't really started much there. We've reached out. We're waiting to hear back. Have conversations with a few people that we already have partnerships with. So at the senior center here in town, we've done a lot of different things over the years with them, and we expect that there's partnership opportunities during these times, but we haven't figured that out yet. And assisted living facilities, back before, we would do quite a few presentations at assisted living facilities, especially oh gosh, what's the one, the Springs, right, is the one closest to the library. We've done quite a bit with them, and Avamere, and oh, I didn't bring my list with me. What's the brand new one on the other side? The Ackerley. Yeah, we've been out there once, I think, to present, all of course before COVID. And so we expect that there are some things we could do even remotely to provide similar presentations and to help with the assisted living facilities. We don't know yet what that would look like, or if they even have just the time, and capacity and everything, if that's a priority for them or not. And then I have the second box there. How can we better support seniors in safely using library services? So not just are they seniors who are being served by the senior center or assisted living facilities, but seniors who are living independently and normally use the library. Is there anything else we can do for them? I think that one we would revisit quite a lot as we reopen, and maybe even add to the category of people who feel like they're immunocompromised or otherwise uncomfortable coming into a public facility, even when our doors do open. And our plans are to still offer curbside for quite a while and have the two things in tandem so that people have options. In the best of all possible worlds, we would keep some version of curbside going for much longer. I don't know if we'll have the staffing levels to do that, but that's our hope. And then the last category, I kind of put two things together here. Last time you saw it, these were separate, but distance learning support and ebook promotion, I have both under marketing, since they're services we already have. We don't need to implement anything new. We just need to make sure people know about them. And the first one, distance learning, we're going to make a dedicated e-newsletter that would live on the same platform that we use our e-newsletters for right now, but send that as a link to the school so they can include it in their newsletter. And then ebook promotion, we're talking about this is my son.
Trying to get to mommy's chair.
No, okay, hold on. I will be right back. Okay, I'm back. Okay, sorry. No sitter. So, let's see, where was I at? Ebook promotion. We're going to start, I'm not sure when yet, but soon, putting things like bookmarks and the printed material that we have already in the holds at Curbside Hold Pickup, and probably in the book bundles and things like that. And having more, it's a good reminder for us. So Vish, I'm glad you brought it up in that discussion, that it's a good reminder for us that we feel like we talk about ebooks so much, but we don't do it constantly. And we really need to remember that we need to just be constantly talking about it, because there are new patrons all the time. There are people who maybe thought that they weren't interested in ebooks or didn't have the skill, and now they're like, oh, I know how to use technology more than I did before, and they're willing to do that now. So that is where we're at with that. And I welcome any advice or edits or anything like that you have before. I'd like to put this on the public website. Fritz, I see your hand.
Yes, I just have a quick question. Back to services for seniors. Are the managers of the assisted living centers going to pick up books for their guests who live there?
I don't know if they're doing that now. So they have a few different options. The way our services have always been is their residents qualify for homebound services through WCCLS, and they can have items mailed to them. So they may be getting that already. It's not it's not used very much in Sherwood. I think we could promote that more. And then we also can associate library cards. So if someone, say, can't leave, they're at assisted living, they, let's say they're in essence homebound, but they don't want to sign up for that service, they can assign somebody else to have permission to pick up their holds for them, or even just share their library card number, and that would do it as well. I don't know. We don't have a way of tracking that, you know, so I don't know. Normally, our main contacts are not the director, but like the coordinators that do the special programming and recreation and those kind of extra fun things. See, I see Fritz, you still have your hand up, and then I see Randy's hand. Did that answer your question, Fritz?
Yes, it does. The thing I was concerned with, because the two largest assisted livings, the Springs and Ackerley, have both opened pretty much during the pandemic. So from the get-go, the people who live there have been pretty much in almost a lockdown situation. So I was just wondering how they were able to still receive their books.
Yeah. Well, the Springs has been there for quite a while, but they expanded. What did they do? Triple in size or something?
It's way more people. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're the ones we've worked with the most. So I feel like they know our services the most, but I'm not sure. I don't know, and I don't know what their precautions are these days either. If they're, you know, if they have staff rules on like don't go during your work shift to some other place. I just, there's so much I don't know about that. But you're right. There are a lot of people who moved into independent living there and the Ackerley that we haven't reached out to yet. Randy?
Sure. So Maya at the Senior Center already knows about this, but Washington County currently has some funding set aside for people over the age of 60 for technology, and that could include laptops, tablets, internet connectivity, smartphones, anything like that. So I can talk to you more about that offline, but there's no reason that patrons of the library couldn't access those funds as well. And they could actually, we would buy a computer for them.
So that's really useful information. I heard a little bit about that through Kristen, since she supervises Maya as well. Is it, so could an individual person separate from being a participant at the senior center, let's say, or resident at assisted living, could they just apply for that? Is that what you're saying, directly to your department? And I did not know that. Yeah, we could help promote that. That'd be great. How long is that temporary?
Soon.
Is there a deadline for all of that, or is it?
Yeah, we've got to have that money spent by the end of September 2021. So we shouldn't have too much trouble spending that money out.
Is that CARES money? What do you call that?
It's CARES money. Yes, it is.
Through DAVS, right? Is that the name of your department?
That's us.
For seniors, did you say, is it over 65?
60 plus, yeah.
60 plus?
Yep.
To get devices. Is it just one type of device, or is it?
It could be any kind of device. The only real stipulation is this money is set aside for seniors that are experiencing social isolation because of the pandemic.
Okay. Okay. Really good to know. Yeah, when you have a flyer or a digital flyer, or what, is it on your website yet?
It should be on the website by the end of this week. But if you've got patrons you're just talking to, they can just call the 503-846-3060 number for more information.
Nice. Thank you. That's awesome. That's great. Yay.
Yay.
That's really awesome. That's great. I just started jotting this down just as like a little notepad over here. I'll go back to the other page. Where were we? I was just asking, is there anything to add or edit or take away before you feel like this could be live? And then we could keep revisiting it every month, or at least not necessarily editing this document, but revisiting like the themes and what kind of updates there are. No, Randy, you still have your hand up. Is that just lingering, or are you editing?
I'm just really emphatic. There we go.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Super. Well, that feels great. Look at us being strategically focused. Laser eyes. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Thank you, everyone. I'll pop back over to the agenda.
You're doing great.
Oh, thanks.
You're ahead of schedule.
Look at us, ahead of schedule. All right. So the SWAT discussion. Let me. Oh, I think I'm still sharing the other thing. Hold on. I need to quit that and share this instead. Just the agenda. It's nothing fancy yet. Well, I take that back. I'm interrupting myself. I'll wait a moment and I'll share last year's SWAT. So SWAT is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. And it's a classic way for a group or organization to analyze, what are we doing well? What are we not doing so well? What can we improve? And the city of Sherwood has been doing annual SWAT analyses of each department, or excuse me, not each department, but kind of each board and commission presents a SWAT of the part of the city that they represent at an annual meeting of some to city council. And so I don't know how long it's been going on, but for a long time, the tradition has been that at the end of the year, hello family member, that at the end of the year, which we won't have this year, that there's a presentation and an appreciation dinner. In December, it's kind of a winter theme, holiday theme event. It's catered. It's very nice. It's a way for the city to say thank you. And of course, we can't gather right now, and so that's not happening. I think there'll be some way of the city reaching out to board members to say appreciation. I don't know yet exactly what that's going to be. At that dinner, which is also considered a working meeting, the chairs for each board and commission take a turn and stand up and say kind of the short version of what the SWAT for their representative group was. And everybody claps and yay, and then they move on to the next one, and people are eating, and it's fun. So since it's not happening that way, the city council still wants to get a SWAT from each board and commission. So we'll be doing that. I don't actually have a deadline for this, but I'm pretty sure it's due before our next meeting. We're supposed to use the same template as last time. And so what I was thinking is, as a group, we could look at, because we have so many new members who haven't ever participated in this SWAT with us or seen. I didn't share the last year's SWAT with you when we did onboarding, so that we could look at last year's, going to talk through it a little bit and put thinking caps on, as we won't have a lot of time to do that, but if there are any things that you're like, oh yes, that still, but this instead, and I could capture some notes, I'll type up and fill in gaps where needed, send it out to you. And then as I find out more about the deadline for this, either it would be like, tell me via email, do you approve it? Or maybe we get to discuss it at our next meeting. I'm not sure, but I think it will be shorter than it was last time. Does that all make sense so far? Okay. I do think doing a SWAT it's a useful tool. There are other ways to do these, of course, but this is what the city's historically done. So it does make it nice to be able to say, oh, here's what we said last year with the same thing. Okay, do you see annual boards and commissions report on the screen? Okay. A moment, get my screens lined up here. Okay, so for strength, and I should have said last year, our group updated this at a board meeting. The year before that, we actually had a joint meeting with City Council, and the mayor was there, and the mayor facilitated a discussion, and it was all done together. And that was a really helpful experience for them to hear firsthand from you, or you know, your colleagues of lore who were on the board, what's going on at the library. So, okay, strengths and return on investment. I don't know what the return on investment is right now. All my stats are all skewed, and it's just really hard to measure things. I think, well, I love having this in here. I think I would either take it out or just refer to in 2019, the return on investment was such and such. But it was over, for every dollar spent, that we provided over $7 worth of library services to the community, valued at over $9 million. And then resources, this has stayed nearly the same. I could update numbers, but this is what people have access to. They still have access to all of this, even though the doors are closed, or almost all of it. There's some collections that we can't circulate very well yet. World languages, this is still true. I think actually there are more languages now in the ebooks. Not a lot of those materials, but some. I don't know how much those are being used by Sherwood patrons, but I think the number of total languages has probably gone up by at least a couple, I would assume, but mostly the ebook language is Spanish and, gosh, Crystal, do you remember? I want to say Korean, and is it Chinese? I don't remember.
I don't recall.
Oh, okay. Library staff. I think library staff are still helpful, knowledgeable, and innovative, especially innovative these days. And then we had, as a breakout topic, innovation. We had launched 3D printing. We had expanded Library of Things with more robotics, board games, and gadgets. The strategic plan was nearing completion. We were planning for the future with a facility master plan. That is kind of on pause right now. It has not been presented to council formally. They know about it. They've seen pieces of it, but my plan was to wait on that until we got through this period, and partially that's just my available time. And then community engagement. These numbers would be all different this year. I think I would have to rework this whole paragraph, or just refer to the previous year. But it's meant to be a swap for the current year, so I'd have to think through that. And I think that's it for strengths. So I wonder if there's anything you see or heard that you'd want to comment on, to add, or otherwise remark on. This isn't your last opportunity with this, but if there's anything off the top of your head.
Well, I would just say the ability, or the staff has done such a great job continuing to change and implement new and innovative procedures in order to get resources out to people during this pandemic. So I just think, whether it's another line item or under innovation, from the curbside pickup to everything else, but just the flexibility and innovation has been really remarkable.
Thank you. I'm jotting notes down.
Yeah, you probably have like adaptability and resilience or something. I think there's a new line item that probably didn't highlight as high, but is becoming more important during the pandemic.
So maybe this one gets changed to be innovative, adaptable, resilience, or something I could rework or combine.
Agile, yeah, because you can change.
Yeah, agile, I like that. It's safe too. Library staff, I mean, we're known in the city for just being really focused on safety, because we had to meet WCCLS safety standards in order to get courier, which were higher safety standards for wearing masks and different things like that. Before the other city departments were required to. Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, Lily, I see your hand.
I had a question. So on the world languages, it's talking about having the bilingual story time in the park.
Mhm.
Is that still going like over like are they still doing that online or is that on hold?
So that's a good question. So it's a summer program series. This last summer we had it, but it was all virtual. So it was summertime or story time. What did we call it? Bilingual story time online, I think is what we called it. We still had a Spanish language storyteller who worked with us. We didn't have nearly the same amount of participation. Usually we serve hundreds of families at that, and it's an ongoing series, and there's lunch and there's crafts and there's activities, and this was more just the story time and the songs and that kind of thing, and very very few people in comparison attended. I'm glad we did it. We learned a lot. We haven't done anything like that yet. I mean, we weren't to a point where we were offering bilingual story time year round before either. It could be when we get to opportunities, we could put something in there too about like, this. It's nice to put when you're thinking about weaknesses, like, well, is that an opportunity to build upon or fix that problem? Do you want me to kind of make a note of bilingual story time? I don't know, increasing, I guess. Is that what you? I don't want to put words in your mouth, Lily, but is that kind of what you meant?
Yeah, that's
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Super. Thank you. I could clarify. I could edit that section and talk about how we still did bilingual story time, but online it clearly didn't fill the same need as before. Should I move on? I think, or you know what? I just spoke over someone.
I was letting you finish. I thought I was.
Oh no! Oh yeah, I couldn't tell. I was just realizing what time it is too, and we have until 5:30, right? I'm getting okay. Good. Okay. Yes. Go ahead, Stephen.
Yeah, I think it's sort of under resources, and it's a more boring one. But one of the most important, I think, strengths or assets, right, of the library is its the WCCLS membership, and just not for resources, but funding and the levy just passing also is an asset, right, that the library has.
Yes. Yeah. I could make the levy passing its own thing. I mean, that's huge. Yeah.
And the history of it too. So it's having that for the next few years, and then also the strong history of community support there.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm thinking put that at the very top as its own bullet, that the levy passed, and put the part about the history in there. It's nearly $1 million a year that we get through WCCLS. Good, thank you. These are great. Anybody else for strengths?
Last thing comes to mind is you do some publishing as well in journals. So there's some.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm surprised actually you don't have. Maybe I'm missing it somewhere here, but that sort of ties into. I guess it's a community engagement, and then I'm thinking where your diversity, equity, and inclusion sits. Certainly, that's a strategic focus area and strength of the library.
Yeah, we had.
I think it sort of just kind of runs through everything. Yeah.
But we could have DEI or something as a separate bullet, like equity driven, or I don't know, something. I feel like as a staff, we've made a lot of progress in the last year, just mentally across board. Like before, we had key staff working on DEI projects and trainings and a little bit across the board for everybody, but we've done a lot more across the board for everybody and having more discussions too, and more like, well, Crystal presented. Crystal, was it at two things? It was Rotary and was there an OLA something? I could put that in there too.
Sherwood was featured. I remember not too long ago, right? And some library sciences journal or trade.
We had, yeah, well, several of us have written articles in the last year and a half. And then Crystal and I had one, and Jamie had one. And then, and we were featured by Urban Library Council and Edge Assessment. Yeah. Crystal, did you have 2 presentations this year?
I'm trying to think. I think it was just one. I think it was just the one at Rotary. And then we co-presented, at City Council. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Good. It's all very helpful. Thank you. How am I doing on time? When do I need to pass the? I'm going to go back to the agenda real quick. Let's see. I have until 5:15. Okay. Okay. So, should I move on to the weaknesses? So, what we had last year, growing pains. This is part of this is to document, why we are talking about a facility master plan and expanding at some point. But that we'd reached capacity for the collection staff and programming, lack things like private study rooms, public meeting spaces, dedicated quiet areas. I feel like that could stay. I don't know that it would be the first one. I mean, a weakness, what you think about a weakness being just that we're closed. Where do you put that? And then we had access. It's physically difficult for some residents on the west side of Highway 99W and students at schools further from the library to travel to the building, especially true for youth and seniors. Public transportation options are inadequate. Limited resources. This is a little bit of a catch-all, but just, we have real limitations on what we can do. And some of that is budget. A lot of it's actually time and staffing limitations because we are a small staff. If we're going to start something new, it usually means we have to not do something else. And then language skills on staff. This is still accurate. We have a few staff with Spanish and French language skills. No other world language skills are currently represented on the staff. Lack of diverse perspectives. We spent a lot of time talking about this with strategic planning too. The traditional user surveys, strategic planning processes do not provide diverse community input. The diversity on our staff and the board is limited. I think it's getting better, but it's limited. And then outreach services, staff capacity does not allow robust services at point of need in the community. That's also a theme with just it being a small staff. And especially now, it takes all of our staff to be able to do curbside and how do we stay safe and get out too. Most people are not inviting us to come, even if we could, which we can't right now, gather. It's just hard to do that kind of thing. But I'm not sure what outreach services will look like this next year. So this is weaknesses. If you think about the current year, are there weaknesses that you would add to this that have maybe become exposed because of our situation, weaknesses that we haven't talked about before, or weaknesses that have not necessarily become exposed, but just, new weaknesses because we're not able to do all things? We could also think about it as if we have that strategic focusing, we're trying to improve in areas that we're weak in. So, I mean,
I don't know if there's a way around it, but you had mentioned earlier that you feel more disconnected. I mean, obviously with folks not coming in, but are there enough two-way communication channels between you and the people that are using the library outside of one-on-one interactions?
Mm-hmm. I mean,
it's a genuine question. I'm not trying to say that it is. I'm just thinking of reflecting on that statement you made.
Well, we didn't do that user survey that we were going to. The user survey was going to go out right as things were shutting down. And so we're missing a whole year's worth or actually 2 years worth, well, almost 3 years worth now, because we do the user survey every other year and then we didn't do it. And now almost a year has passed. So we're missing that information. We have right now, if somebody took the initiative to give us feedback, there are a lot of ways to do that. I mean, they can obviously email, they can call. We're answering, phone calls. We're staffing the phones. We're staffed 7 days a week. We do get a lot of email questions and phone calls, and so definitely our regular users and a lot of people who've moved to Sherwood and are like, hey, I moved here but you haven't been open this whole time, how do I get a library card?
Okay, it sounds like
Those kind of those things are happening, but we're not getting feedback on like goal setting or visioning of what the library could be. There, I think my experience is all the comments I'm seeing are about very immediate concerns. How do I attend this program or get my library card or that kind of thing. So we could do a better job of asking for information. I think doing a user survey, we've probably run out of excuses to keep delaying doing a user survey, and should just do it even though we're not open and people haven't seen the inside of the library for all this time. We should probably just do some kind of survey, but I don't know what it would be. Would we take the questions we asked before and add to them, or set that one aside and do something new? Or, and then how would we write that in here? Weaknesses that we're and I'm just in my notes. I'm writing lacking community feedback, or like the same amount of community feedback. We also are not seeing it. Before we would see people and really know, like, this person is struggling, this person needs help, this person is just happy and they just want books, to read, or that kind of thing. Like we don't have as much information now about people who are really more at risk. Is that, Stephen, do you think there's something else to say there?
No,
or?
My intent there was just to ask sort of a probing question. Have you?
Yeah.
I didn't have an answer for it, so.
Okay. And sorry, Fritz, I had my head down for a long time. I'm not sure how long your hand was up. I apologize, but what?
No, I just put it up.
Okay.
So, does the library have the email addresses for all the patrons?
Almost all of them, yes. Everybody who's given us an email address, which is, I don't know, something like 96% of the patrons or something like that, yes.
Could we do a survey via email?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we could. Yes.
Because everyone, we're getting surveys. All of us, I'm sure, getting surveys from this and that, now that we're all home and we all have maybe more time and more interest and concentration and out of boredom, are filling out surveys.
That's great. I fill a lot of surveys out on my personal time. So I guess as soon as you get on a list for a survey, yes, I can fill out more. Good. We could put that. So under weakness, I could say that I could put some wording in there about how we skipped a survey, we're lacking that data. And then under opportunities, we could say, to conduct a survey. Anything else for weaknesses? I'm putting closed right up at the top for that.
Maybe it was down further. I kind of remember last year we had a weakness with was there a tech or like tech training? Or am I misremembering? They're not remembering that correctly. I remember if there was like a technology weakness called. I'm just wondering if that was being felt worse this year just with what's going on, or if there's enough staff to train folks that could use digital things that otherwise wouldn't.
Do you mean staff to train the public or for staff to train?
No, to help people either provide resources or one-on-one support or whatever. I imagine that. Have you scaled to that demand, or?
We haven't been able to offer tech help anywhere near what we used to do. We're not doing in-person meetings, and the people who need tech help the most, of course, are people who would be probably least comfortable doing a Zoom meeting, or something like that to look at technology. There's technology available, of course, for us to share our screen or for them to share their screen and so on. But it's a lot to ask of someone who's like, "Can you help me set up my computer? I don't know how to use," or that kind of thing, depending on what it is. We've done some tech help actually at our entrance outside, helping people with ebooks, kind of like, hey, here's how you do it.
So that's probably actually a good threat, right? Not weakness, but it's an external factor that the folks that need the most tech support are the ones that least likely to take, or that need the in-person support that you can't provide. So not a weakness, but an external threat.
Yeah. Should I scroll down? I think, let's see. So opportunities is next, and then threats are the last one. Opportunities to expand the building. I feel like we need to keep that on here. I mean, but we could maybe as the top one put like open the building. Economic development. This is on here near the top because City Council has been making such an emphasis as a city that economic development is a goal, and librarians can play really key roles, and it's very common across the country for library staff to be providing business reference services and classes and events and all of this. And then we do when we're open, people use the facility for their own businesses, for tutoring, for gig economy, stuff like that. We don't really do much, and certainly not now. We're not answering very many questions about economic development. If we were to have more staff, we could do that. I don't know that that's going to be a priority this next year, but that's kind of the background on why that's there. But also, the city has hired an economic development coordinator. Is that his title? That's not quite right. Is it? Is that right? Economic development coordinator, something like that. And then opportunity services in world languages, if we were to increase language skills on staff. Outreach and partnerships. We talked about Latinx and ethnically diverse populations. How do we reach people who are here in a city the size of Sherwood, where there aren't culturally specific community centers and things like that? It can be trickier to reach out to people. Let's see. Welcoming new U.S. citizens. We were doing our citizenship classes in person. We have not done those remotely. And I don't know. We've talked about it. The group that was providing those doesn't do them remotely either. But we haven't looked into it for a while. Maybe they've figured out a way to do it remotely. Technology. Maybe, Stephen, maybe this is what you were thinking about. So under opportunities, library services are constantly evolving with technology. Examples where change is expected, including streaming services, more web-based engagement, 3D printing, robotics, artificial intelligence, STEM programming. New data. So this didn't happen. We were thinking that our user survey was going to have it. It was actually postponed from this date, and then we didn't end up doing it. The census data, of course, we haven't seen that yet. And of course, the new strategic plan we don't have, but we could put in there about strategic focus Yes, Jane.
I wanted to say that to emphasize the importance of the 2020 census, I happen to work for them, and there's going to be some exciting stuff. I'm not in policy, where but I did go out and collect data, and it's going to be very important for us. How we phrased it, bring new understanding. Absolutely.
Good. Good. A lot of this would still be relevant. I can maybe tweak a little bit just for to make it current. But then if we add in here, to open the building, reopen the building. Is there anything else that anybody sees as lacking or needing to be edited?
I think you probably have an opportunity with increased demand and appetite in exposing new folks to your digital or any services that you may have had before, maybe even new ones, right? And I think there will be continued appetite post COVID towards that. So if you keep delivering like the Zoom, story time or whatever, right? So there's an opportunity there to engage more, I think, on the sort of digital transformation side of things.
Mm-hmm. I was just talking with Jenny on staff today about budgeting, and we're thinking do we budget for Zoom for all of next fiscal year? Will people want any of that? Yes, Melanie.
And that's basically what I was going to say is it's hard to talk about opportunities not knowing. I think Steven said something about this last time, but it's just kind of impossible to plan at this moment, not knowing what's happening. But I'm just wondering if you've talked at all about when you do open the facility, if you're going to have some sort of grand reopening or some sort of party or something that's real community focused, invite people back and do something. I don't even know what that would look like, but something fun and a big party.
Yeah, when it's safe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Super safe. Yeah, we haven't really, we've kind of talked about at some point when we were able to have a staff meeting in person again, we should do something to make it fun again. But I think most we've been talking about when we open the doors to the public is going to be in this phased approach of just a little bit more. The idea of having a huge party sounds kind of scary,
Right. Exactly.
But is there a way to kind of have a party feel, but not all simultaneously or something? Yeah. To celebrate.
Some sort of celebration, whatever that looks like.
Yeah. And Jane.
Oh,
yeah.
I don't have a question. Did I raise my?
You don't? Your hand's raised. Sorry, I just say your name, Jane.
How do I put it down? It's Fritz.
Well, both of your hands are raised. Fritz, what would you like to say?
I'm not sure how to lower it. Okay. Sorry.
Coming to the question about the party, is this next year? Is there any kind of an anniversary for the library? When was the opening? When did the library open?
Well, we've had library services in the city of Sherwood since 1935.
Right.
So actually we could have done something this year. The last big anniversary we had for the building turned 10 years old. About 4 years ago? We had a big party for that. I'd have to.
Is there a 15?
Yeah, it's a good question. I have amnesia about that date.
Okay. Well, I'm just thinking we could look up and maybe make a 15-year party.
Yeah.
To bring attention back to the library.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. I'm glad you mentioned that because that probably is next fiscal year. I think, Crystal, do you remember, was it January of 2005? Does that sound right?
I don't recall. I don't remember the month that was 2005, though.
Okay, I know it was January. It was like it was almost ready. I think City Hall moved in November, and then the library opened in January. I think that's what it was.
According to Google, I don't know if that Wikipedia, not the best source, but it says December 1985.
1985. Oh, that's the old building. That would have been the one over
Okay, so that's
with the
not
little
the new
church,
one.
but yeah, across the parking lot from the senior center.
Got it. Okay.
The current building is almost 15 years old. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I liked doing the 10-year one. A lot of people said, "Oh, I had no idea the building was already 10 years old." So many people think of it as a brand new building, but of course, any building when it's 10 years old, you start to have, just things start to sag and leak and not be what you thought they were going to be. And although it looks really nice and new still, so reminding people that the building is 15 years old is also, I think, important.
Yeah, this is January 2006, so I like that 15-year idea.
Good. Okay. Yeah, well, that would be right around the corner. We could do that kind of as a postponed 15-year. Good. Thank you. All right. I think I'm actually over time now for this section.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, we didn't get any public comment. Let's see, let me pop back over to the agenda. So we have time for council updates. We have 5 minutes set aside for public comment. Do you mind if I keep using those few minutes?
Keep rolling, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Right, where did it go? So, okay, so threats, we only had 3. We had budget, digital literacy gaps. Here's more of what you were remembering, Stephen. And we had demographics changing quickly. I could add COVID-19 global pandemic on there. Anything else you want to say for threats? Did I get? Oh, I had a note when we were talking earlier, Stephen, you were talking about not able to help the people who need technology help the most, that could be under. There's a lot of different things we could say under the pandemic, that we're not able to serve people.
Yeah, that's a good sub bullet, I think, for all the thrash that the COVID's doing. Because then you could even say it's some of the previous things you mentioned about sort of the long-term strategic planning has been put on hold, or other things that we plan to do this year have been delayed.
Yeah, delays to the projects are still important. The facility is still getting older. The community is still growing bigger. Yeah.
Actually, that might have been your opportunity as you figured out how to deliver services without the building. Maybe you delay your growing pains just by a couple of years. Like when we get back, you won't be able to accommodate a little bit more with less, basically.
That's true. I think we'll have to win some people back too. A lot of people got out of the habit of using the library on a regular basis and may have moved on and I don't need to check out books now. I do this instead. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I think that the changing patron behaviors is both an opportunity and a threat is probably the best way to say that.
I think this other part, I should probably cut myself off for time, but I kind of forgot about this being down here. The city also asked these questions. What are 2 or 3 most significant accomplishments this past year? What are your 2 or 3 major goals for the upcoming year? If you're okay with it, what I could do is kind of synthesize the discussion we've had at this meeting and other meetings and pre-populate this and then send that out over email and you could respond and keep some of these things. But with the 2 or 3 major goals for the upcoming year. I mean, we have the new strategic focus goals, not goals, but areas. I can refer to those. We could talk about still doing a survey, reopening the building. I mean, it's not really the board reopening the building, but you know, your advice on how to do that, and then the significant accomplishments I can kind of adjust as well. What do you think? Is people okay with getting something via email to read in the next couple weeks, say? And yeah, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Super. Thank you. That's great. All righty. I used up my maximum number of seconds.
Fantastic. Thanks, Adrian. And we'll move along to Renee for council updates.
All right, let me see here. Pulled out my notes. There's a lot of development going on. So last night there was I think it was a 3.5-hour meeting about a potential planned unit development out on along Ironwood Drive area off of Oregon Street. So that was a big conversation that will be revisited coming up the second meeting in January. So the elections took place. We have the swearing in on the first meeting in January. Let's see. Yeah, there's gonna be lot more conversations about development in the area, housing units. We're going to have a conversation. I think I've already shared this about chickens. That's come back up. There are individuals in the community that would really like to see chickens, and so that's coming before council again. Some sign code changes potentially. The Parks and Rec master plan. So much like we talked about the library master plan, the Parks and Rec has one as well that we'll be discussing and adopting. And that's really it until the 16th of February. That's as far as we go. So just mostly development. Sherwood's booming. Thank you guys. Any questions? Let me know.
Great. So no questions for Renee. Do we have any other business for the good of the order?
I guess I could just say that I'll be putting out all the 2021 Outlook meeting invitations. I think I've done a few of those, but I need to fill out the rest of the year. And we can always change them for the time, but if folks just plan on third Wednesday, 4 to 5:30 until we figure out otherwise.
Great. If there are no other questions or comments, we can adjourn at 7 minutes early. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I hope everybody has a happy holiday, and we will see everybody soon. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care.